From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Tuesday 3rd of May. Good afternoon. Today we're going to be discussing some of the biggest stories in the world right now, including the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade and BP's record profits. We'll also be answering today's big question, what's coming up in the world of politics this month, as well as further discussing the news surrounding Roe v. Wade. By the way, those last two things will exclusively be in the extended version of the daily briefing over on Nebula, which is about 3 times longer than the normal show. Anyway, I'm telling you that because this week, signing up is cheaper than ever. 42% off the normal price, which means that it's just $11.59 a year, the cheapest this is ever going to get. Anyway, Nebula is linked down below, and I'll explain how to sign up fully at the end of this video. But first, let's run through what happened in Ukraine this weekend. Over the weekend, Russian forces made limited progress in Donbass, moving south from Izium and north from Volnovka, in what sort of looks like a pincer movement aimed at occupying the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. However, Ukraine were able to stage counteroffensives around Kharkiv, where it looks like they're trying to cut off Russia's supply lines to Izium, and therefore hamper Russia's pincer movement. And unfortunately for Putin, the news gets worse, because on Monday, Ukrainian forces reportedly killed yet another Russian general while they were visiting the lines in Izium. And by Tuesday, it looked like the Russian advance had mostly stalled. Some commentators suggested that Putin might be forced to resort to a general mobilization against Ukraine in the next few days, which would involve a wider general conscription of Russian men of fighting age. But such a move is unlikely to be popular in Russia. Staying with the conflict, last Friday evening it was reported that a Russian spy plane had entered Danish and Swedish airspace, and obviously neither country was particularly pleased about this. And as a result, yesterday Denmark and Sweden summoned Russia's ambassador to their respective foreign ministries. The Danish foreign minister said of the event in an email about the situation, "It's totally unacceptable and particularly worrying in the current situation." Additionally, in March this year, Russia threw 4 jets through Sweden's airspace, so this clearly isn't a first time. But what makes this situation even more important is that Sweden isn't currently a member of NATO, but is seriously considering if they want to join soon. Russia's recent violation of their airspace may then push Sweden into more seriously considering their application, and it's worth noting that Denmark are already a NATO member. Moving over to the US, on Monday, Politico published a report that indicated the US Supreme Court had voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, a landmark case regarding abortion. The report contained a draft majority opinion, written by Justice Samuel Alito, that eviscerates Roe, stating that Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, and that abortion should go to the state legislatures. For those of you who don't know, Roe v. Wade was a decision first made by the Supreme Court in 1973 that stated that a woman's choice to have an abortion was constitutionally protected. However, with a 6-3 conservative court, many pro-life activists saw it as a chance to overturn the Roe precedent, and if this story is true, they seem to have done just that. If Roe is overturned, it could also see changes on the horizon for other more liberal policies that are backed up by similar legal principles. But it will likely also shake the political landscape within the country, and could further motivate Democrats to turn out in the November midterms. Regardless, over on the TLDR US channel, we've got a full explainer on this topic, and there's a link to that in the description. Anyway, as we reported in the daily briefing last week, the Premier of the British Virgin Islands has been arrested by the United States' Drug Enforcement Agency on drug trafficking and money laundering charges. In the wake of this arrest, a 12-month inquiry into corruption and maladministration in the overseas territory was released early. This inquiry has called for a partial suspension of the constitution and for direct rule by the London-appointed governor to be imposed for at least 2 years. In response to this proposal, hundreds of people in the British Virgin Islands gathered to protest what's been described as a colonialist policy. The island's acting premier has described the reimposition of direct rule as unacceptable, and added that the people of the Virgin Islands are capable of working collaboratively with the UK to implement the agreed recommendations of the report. Finally for the briefing today then, as the cost of living crisis continues, it seems that some are suffering more than others. And that's because British Petroleum has seen their profits absolutely skyrocket to a 10-year high in their first quarterly report of this year. The company's underlying replacement cost profits doubled from £2.1 billion a year ago to about £5 billion now. However, there are some nuances here. Firstly, the company had a quarterly loss of about £20.4 billion following their decision to withdraw from Russia. Secondly, it's been reported that BP are planning to invest about £18 billion into the UK's energy system by 2030. Nonetheless, even with these nuances taken into account, some are calling for a windfall tax on the profits of energy companies to help those who are suffering the consequences of the cost of living crisis. But there's no information yet about whether such a policy is really being considered or whether it will ever be introduced. That's all we have time for on YouTube today. But remember, this is the cheapest it will ever be to get a full year's subscription to Nebula. By signing up, you'll get an ad-free extended daily briefing every day, including the answer to today's big question, what's coming up in the political world in May, as well as our discussion of Roe v. Wade. And you can either watch the extended version of the show on Nebula, or if you sign up, stream it in your podcast app of choice. Like I said, our friends at CuriosityStream, the streaming service which offers some of the world's best documentaries, is offering their best ever deal, whereby you can get both platforms, CuriosityStream and Nebula, for $11.59 a year. That's all the documentaries you could want on CuriosityStream, and then more TLDR on Nebula, including the extended briefing, other full exclusive TLDR videos, and it's always ad-free. Click the link below to get both services for less than $12 a year, the cheapest it's going to get, while also supporting the channel. Thanks for your support.